Good morning all. I see my YouTube people already out in the numbers. Morning to all of you guys. Alte Allen, morning. Vilma Devines, Joan Williams, good morning. Gail Jack, David Clark, Leon Graves, Chancellor 7 of 9. That's an interesting name. Morning. Annette McConney, good morning to you. Denise Cummings, Deborah Duranty, Kathleen Key, and the Remy X. Tuned down for what? Morning. Neil Francois, good morning. Gerald Pascal, good morning. Diane Charles, morning. Alison Boyce, good morning to you. Susan Kadugan, good morning. That's okay. Maria Lyons, morning, Maria. Denise, Lorraine, Laria, I think. Good morning. What's up there? Morning, Val. Angie, Sherry, morning. I'm seeing Deborah on Facebook and YouTube. Very nice. Yes, I'm starting a little bit earlier today, guys, because I have another engagement at this afternoon for 1 o'clock. Yeah, so I have to make sure that yes, and it says we are on in numbers. Morning, Teresa Francis. Yeah, I have an event at 1 o'clock in Port of Spain, so that's why I'm starting a little later today. Time. Yeah, so I just give the guys a little bit more time and then we can start. Marlene Wilson McNeil, morning. Alison Samuel, morning, Alison. Morning to Dawn Joseph as well. Put this up here one time. Finish. See this. Patsy Edwards, Edison Joseph, good morning. Joy Ragunanan, morning. Joy, Jennifer Ashby, good morning. Denise Cummings, and there. Freddie Williams, morning. Alison says, share the live people. I guess some people probably thinking I'm coming on at 11. Yeah. They may not have seen read the notice well. But anyway, it is already 10:05, so if folks will jump on a little later, or if not, I guess they'll have to catch it on replay. Yeah. So, a couple things we need to talk about this morning, this Corpus Christi morning. So to all of the members of the Catholic faith, good morning to all of you and happy Corpus Christi to you. I know probably some people may have gone off to church or some procession or something. Yeah, so good morning to all of you, and I hope that you have a very good holiday. Alison is saying she was thinking that I was having a longer shooting. Well, no, unfortunately, Alison. Yeah, so yeah, we know how things are going because there's so many things to talk about. Before I get to the main issue of the mistress of the mass, the misleader of the opposition, I was going through Facebook yesterday, and I have to say, if it is not already evident, it should be that we have some citizens in this country who clearly don't like anything good for Trinidad and Tobago. Good news for them is like an opportunity to sit down and study, well, what is the negatives in this that I could run on Facebook and social media and talk about. Put in the comments, because I can't highlight anything or praise anything good that happens while Keith Rowley and the PNM is in office. So yesterday I saw several articles, several posts over the last couple of days or so that to me should be considered good news. First of all, a couple Monday public meetings ago, Dr. Rowley, in his feature address, would have mentioned, he was talking about, back in the 80s or whenever it was, when certain individuals from Trinidad used to run to Canada and claim, that they were victims of crime and so on in Trinidad, persecution and whatnot, looking for asylum in Canada, which would have resulted in the implementation of visa requirements on the part of Trinidad and Tobago citizens to go to Canada. And he indicated in that public meeting that every opportunity he gets to meet with Canadian Prime Minister Justin Trudeau, he brings up the issue or raises the issue of the removal of visa requirements for citizens of Trinidad and Tobago to enter Canada. And he said, Mr. Trudeau every time says, yes, we'll consider it, we'll see how it goes, we'll think about it and all of that. But he has not been able to get a firm commitment from Mr. Trudeau with respect to that. But nevertheless, Dr. Rowley, every opportunity, continue to advocate for that. They said, ask and you shall receive. Scripture tells us, keep asking, keep on asking, and eventually, Well, it seems that Dr. Rowley's advocacy has paid dividends because it was reported a couple of days ago that Trinidad and Tobago is among 13 countries that was added to a list of, I think, 55, whose citizens would no longer require a visa to enter Canada, provided that you satisfy one or both of two conditions, at least for now, which is if you would have been the holder of a Canadian visa within the last 10 years, or if it is that you currently hold a valid US visa, non-immigrant visa, then you do not need a Canadian visa to go to Canada. You just need to apply for an ETA. So that is certainly an improvement on the situation. So we're heading in the right direction, right? So the last requirement to be removed is for them to say it's open to everybody. So even if you didn't have a Canadian visa in the last 10 years, or if you don't currently hold a valid US non-immigrant visa, that you could still come to Canada without applying for an ETA. Well, boy, you would think that is good news. Not for some people in this country. No. They had to make sure and tell you, well, these are conditions and how that benefiting we, right? All kind of thing. Yeah, it's best people jump on a plane and go to Canada. Well, to all those people who are of the view that Trinidad and Tobago is the worst place to live, that the economy in shambles, we have so much crime, unemployment, and they could give you the whole litany of woes with respect to Trinidad and Tobago, that they could find absolutely nothing good happening in this country. That when they wake up in the morning, they just put on the negative glasses, and whole day they go through the entire day just looking for negatives. Well, you have an opportunity. For those of you who would have held a Canadian visa in the last 10 years, or you have a US visa now valid, there are plenty of flights going to Canada. Hop on one now. I can assure you, you will not be missed. And most of these people come from that party, the Yellow Party. The Yellow Party. Nothing good to say about anything. You know why? Because Keith Rowley did it. But I bet you if Kamala Persad-Bissessar had said she wrote to Justin Trudeau asking him to remove the visa requirement, oh yes, they would have been happy. They would have been praising her, you see, when Kamala right. She wrote to the Indian Prime Minister to ask for vaccine, and we get vaccine. And she wrote to this one, and she wrote to that one. Has she got no response from Mia Motley yet with respect to Brent Thomas, that issue that they continue to prostitute? If I'm Mia Motley, I have no time with she. Waste that time. You want to write to the woman to demand that her country have a public inquiry? The UNC paying for that? They can't even pay rent for their headquarters. I don't know how they're making out for the next 2 months because local election is on the 14th of August. And as she would have mentioned at the launch of their new headquarters, they are paying the rent from monthly contributions from the salaries of councillors and members of parliament. So now your councillors are no longer receiving a salary, at least for the next couple of months. How will they pay the rent? Understand? They're going cap in hand, begging business people in South to assist them, promising them that they could win this corporation and that corporation. So if it is that they could give them some funding. And how exactly do you plan to repay that funding if you will win these corporations? You plan to give these people lucrative contracts to pay them back? I just asking the question. Yeah, when they feel we don't know what is going on inside that house of ill repute, we know full well. Right? That's issue one. Yesterday, there was also an article posted that there is a new hotel, an international hotel, a 500-room hotel and resort that is to be constructed in Tobago. And the only thing that is outstanding now is the receipt of the certificate of environmental clearance from the EMA, so that they could begin construction of this hotel, which would be the only all-inclusive hotel and resort in the country. 500 rooms. Right now, Tobago has a room stock of about 2,600 rooms in terms of hotel and guest houses, 2,600. So here it is that you are getting a boost of at least 500 rooms, which is going to provide employment during the construction phase and is going to provide permanent employment when they begin operations. You would think that too is good news because of the amount of money that will be pumped into the economy of Trinidad and Tobago, more so Tobago, right? You would think that is good news. No, they want to know about what is the tax concessions that was offered to these people, and they want to know what is the hiring practices of these people, and they want to know if it is that if it is going to impact the construction of this hotel, is going to impact the environment. They just sit down. You see something like that should be good news. But the only thing you could do is to think, well, let me see what's all the negatives associated with this that I could come and run on Facebook. And you're proud to come on social media and post up that nonsense. Would they build a 500-room hotel for who? No tourists want to come here. All this at a crime. There's nobody crime in Trinidad and Tobago. And they come in here, they had to put on bulletproof vests. All kind of dotish talk. But yet still, Jamaica, that had 1,498 murders last year, welcoming tourists, to use the local parlance, by the grab, running to Jamaica, whose crime situation is far worse than ours. Some of these same clowns who could see nothing good in that project and only looking to bad talk it and malign it. Yeah, they will hop on a plane and run to Jamaica, you know. Yeah, they will do that. But in Trinidad, yeah, the same way they run sandals. We want to know transparency and probity, and we want to know about the MOU and all of that. And yeah, they knew a lot. They want to, what is the tax concessions and all of this thing, and it's an all-inclusive resort. And when the tourists come here, Tobago wouldn't benefit because the people will stay in the resort and they wouldn't leave. All that foolishness, all that dotish talk. Yeah, only negatives. So they don't start to lash it already. They could see nothing good in that project. There's also a report that the ArcelorMittal steel plant operations, that the steel plant has more or less been purchased. So it's just to get the sign off from the cabinet, and they would be proceeding to restart operations of that iron and steel plant in Point Lisa. Again, more good news, because one, in the startup phase, there will be employment that will be generated with respect to refurbishment of the plant. And then when they start operations, they said they're looking at about 1,000 permanent jobs on the plant. Even that, they have issues with who buy it. They show is the 1% they sell it to. All this kind of nonsense. All they're complaining, the same people who complaining, under the Skid Rowley government, how much jobs lost, 100,000 jobs. Last week, the misleader, over 100,000 jobs lost in the last 8 years under this Keith Rowley, wicked and evil Keith Rowley government. But two Mondays before, she quoted CSO statistics. 70,000 jobs lost under this government in the last 8 years. Their own statistics. You see, look at here, government statistics, 70,000. And in the space of 2 Mondays, it went from 70,000 back to 100,000 plus. She can't pick a struggle. But Rowley's a liar. Yeah? And Amo is a liar. But she don't lie. No, she don't lie at all. She's honest Betty. Anything that comes out of her mouth, you could take it as gospel. But her supporters and them, anyway, they know everybody else who does lie. Yeah? When they had to talk about Keith Rowley's a liar, the only thing they could talk about, he said he wasn't closing down Petrotrin. Petrotrin closed down. As if the only thing Petrotrin used to do is to refine oil. So it's just refinery. Petrotrin wasn't involved in exploration and production. They weren't engaged in marketing. They weren't engaged in selling refined products to other countries, bunkering and all of these things. They weren't doing that. The only thing Petrotrin used to do is run a refinery. And the refinery is the sum total of Petrotrin. All the other operations that Petrotrin was involved in, things that were departments, little departments, have now become full-fledged companies, right? So instead of one company dealing with everything, you now have it broken up into 3 different parts. But they want to tell you, yeah, they shut down Petrotrin. No matter how the government say it was, the operations were restructured. So you have Heritage now, whose sole purpose it is to find oil, right? Exploration and production. You had an exploration and production department under Petrotrin. Now it's a full-fledged company. They have an issue. She has an issue with the new CEO. So she put up the man picture the other night. But before I come into her, right? She put up the man picture the other night. First of all, the Doglaya, he did that a few days before. Put up the picture. You see this black man here? Right. But want to tell me that is not about race. Nobody cares about the man's skin color. But you put up the man picture, right? Clearly a white man. Eric Cascula. But you're saying, you see this black man here? As if to say, well, Rowley say he's a black man. The PNM is a black party. But they couldn't find any black person to put as the head of Heritage. They bring a white man to pay him $180,000 a month. Never mind the fact that the previous teacher was making $150,000 a month. She was a local, right? Didn't have no problem with that. The person before Alex Chow was also making 100 and something thousand. Ask them how much Khaled Hassan Ali, when he was the president of Petrotrin under them. The man say they find oil. Remember when Jan Kamla had a big press conference and he bring this glass jar with oil and tell us, yeah, look, for how much? For 48 million barrels or something. So we find, and yes, it's all that. Yes, things have turned around for Petrotrin. Whatever happened to that oil find? How many years later? How many barrels did we get from that? Remember that? Sweet crude. Yes, look at here. All here. Big press conference. Just one of the many charades that they used to treat this country to when they were in office. Just like when Caribbean Airlines donated $5 million US to the Children's Life Fund. Remember that? Big check. Big press conference. She, Kamla, George Nicholas, and others holding a big check. And they get was that big check to show. Not one dime ever went because Caribbean Airlines was in deficit. They made no profits for the 5 years that they were under the People's Partnership. Not one penny of profit. So a big show to fool people. Look, you see? Look what's happening. Nothing went into the Children's Life Fund from Caribbean Airlines. That's it. Yeah, but Rowley does lie. Rowley is a liar, and PNM supporters drinking Balize juice. Can't take nothing that comes out of Rowley's mouth. Yeah? So they have a problem with the man's skin color because he's white. Yeah. But when they brought Michael DeLolo here and paid him $33,000 US a month to run the same Caribbean Airlines that couldn't turn a profit, they had no issue with that. When they bring Gibbs and Iwatsky here and was paying them combined $234,000 a month salary, when you had junior officers in the police service, officers who came through the ranks, who had aspirations to be commissioner of police, they bypass them, and you bring 2 white men from Canada. You didn't know about skin color there. You had no problem with that. Yeah? Everything for these clowns is race, and always accusing the PNM of race beating. Imagine the Doglaya, that clown Arnold Roberts. If this man can't do a single lie, whether it's doubles and coffee or Doglaya politics, without pulling the race card. So last week, I played for you all, telling Africans, black people as he called them, to reject Rowley and the UNC and the PNM because Rowley and the PNM supposed to be an African party. But look at the makeup of Rowley cabinet, right? There's a set of non-Africans, Al-Rawi, Dayal Singh, Rohan Sinanan, Kazim Hussein, Stuart Young. So he has a problem with the makeup, the ethnic makeup of the cabinet. It don't have enough Africans. Yeah, so reject Rowley and the PNM for that, right? The racist Rowley and PNM, whose cabinet is more ethnically diverse than that of Kamla Prasad Bisesa. What I want to tell you, right? Then they come to talk about, yes, Rowley don't want to give, he's a black man, he's the blackest man that have in Trinidad and Tobago, and the PNM is a black party, but he don't want to, he didn't give any of the black lawyers in his cabinet silk. They didn't give Iowa the vote, but Iowa is a black man and he's supporting the PNM. Now, same one would like to boast about how diverse the UNC is in terms of its ethnic makeup. Donna Cox, the Minister of Social Development, would have appointed some 38 persons recently with respect to the issue, I think, of social assistance, public assistance, something like that, right, in different regions. This clown had the time on his hands to go through the names of every person, all 38 persons, to pull up the picture, right? To do a live to say, to tell Donna Cox she appointed 38 people and not one of them is East India. What is the point of that? What is the point of that? We see it for what it is. It is to stir up, again, to create some sort of animosity in the minds of persons of East Indian descent who might be contemplating voting for the PNM because they see a whole set of these UNC people now coming over to the PNM. Plenty of them. Yeah? Not just councillors and so on. Because I have gotten calls from my friends who I know, my good friends who were UNC supporters and members, telling me they want to get membership forms to sign up to join the PNM. In fact, one of them told me, and this is somebody who I knew to be at one time a staunch UNC supporter. He and his entire family have now converted to PNM, so much so that his daughter is going for screening to represent the PNM in one of the districts in Caroni Central. So they have a lot of them. They come into the PNM, whether it's as members, as supporters, but they wouldn't talk about that. Yeah? But they know that, you know. They know that. So they need to now stir up something to tell all of these UNC supporters who switch in allegiance and come into the PNM, hey, the PNM is a racist party. You see, look what Donna Cox do. She appointed 38 people and none of them is East Indian. That is the nastiness that they have to rely on in order to hold on to your supporters. But it's not, the opposite is not happening. PNM people not running to the UNC. So what is their issue? What is their story? Yeah, well, you know, the UNC is not looking for no PNM rejects. Really? Well, some of the people who leave it all is not rejects. They rejected you. They rejected your party and the foolish rhetoric. And they realize who it is really pushing that racist agenda. And it's not the PNM. It is not the PNM that is doing that. And maybe they finally start to wake up. Well, some of them anyway. You still have the majority blind sycophants. Can't help themselves. Right? Let me get to the misleader of the opposition. On Monday night, there were two things she said that I need to treat with. One, and well, of the two, there is one that I keep hearing repeated by supporters and members of the UNC. That is, anyway, we're dealing with it. So on Monday night, she asked the question. Again, she had no choice but to touch on the Piarco Airport matter because part 2 of the Express series on the Commission of Inquiry report into the Piarco Airport matter, again, 2 pages, would have condemned the UNC, exposed the corruption of the UNC in that particular project. It is unfortunate that we didn't have investigations or commission of inquiry into Incogen and the Salcott so that we could get a more clear picture of the quantum of corruption that took place between 1995 to 2001, the rice deal. Remember the bicycle that come in the dog rice and all of them, the $30 million rice deal, all these things that people forget. It's unfortunate. So part 2, so she vexed the Express, the media, the PNM and the media handlers and so on, that they had to run a whole story and they only pushing this Piarco Airport matter. So she had to mention it. And the only thing that Prasad Bisesa could see with respect to that commission of inquiry into the Piarco Airport is that it has exonerated DPL Jolene John. That's the only thing. The only person she could say it exonerated. But all the other names that were called up in that, and her name should have been called up in that too, but she's fortunate that it wasn't. the role that she played as Attorney General in 2001, and the efforts that she put into bringing that investigation to an end should have featured prominently, in my view, in that commission of inquiry. Unfortunately, it wasn't. But the fact that the only thing she could talk about is that Jolene John was never an issue. Jolene John was never charged for anything with respect to the Piarco airport. In fact, Jolene John would have been praised by several quarters for coming to the commission of inquiry and actually testifying to the wrongdoing that took place. That she told Pandey about what was happening, and he said, I am aware. It is a feeding frenzy and a milk cow. So for Sad Bisasa to come and she said, right. But the PNM supporters drinking Balize juice. And right. That whole report is an indictment on the corruption. And the unfortunate thing that we have to deal with is the fact that you have a number of persons who were involved in that who's still around the UNC today. And there is a clear and present danger that if it is that party gets back into office in 2025, we could see the return of a lot of these people. Never mind the fact that some of them have bowed out of politics and they will no longer be contesting seats to be representatives, elected representatives. Remember, the government is entitled to 16 senators in the Senate. So you could very well see she bring back people like Suraj Rambachan, yeah, and others. So it is not beyond the realm of possibility. So when they feel we're stupid and we say, okay, they're trying to convince you, well, look, we Persian the party are the older heads, some of the people who were there for a long time, and we bring in fresh blood and new blood. Yeah, they bring in the fresh blood through the lower house, but the upper house is where you're going to bring back the derelicts, right? When it is that you go into the political cemetery in the night with your shovel and dig up, and you decide you want to exhume bodies that need to remain buried, like Anel Roberts, yeah? But now she turned grave digger. That's all she doing, looking to bring up. Yes, now let me see. I see Eric calling me. I don't know why. Anyway, yeah. So that's she playing grave digger now, looking to exhume bodies that needs to stay buried, right? But there were two things she mentioned on Monday night that I have to deal with. One, she asked the question, which party could be more corrupt than the People's National Movement, right? Which party could be more corrupt? I said, you really have the audacity and the temerity, the tenacity to ask that question? Sad Bisasa, you're for real? You serious? You're not serious. But I decided I would let Makandal Daga answer that question for us first before I do, right? Let me see how many of you all remember this.
60 years, in my whole 40 or 50 or 60 years, I had never heard so much corruption in one little island as I've heard in this country over the last decade. I can't understand why we have no more jail doors in this academy. There has been too much corruption. And every bit of corruption you and I are paying for today because the country is not in a position to deal as they ought to deal with us in the present condition. People are stealing money as if they invented it. As if it's their right to preach.
In my 40, 50, 60 years, I have never seen so much corruption in one little island. This is Makandal Daga in 2011. They had barely been in office for a year. Makandal Daga at that time was the PP's appointed ambassador to CARICOM. And here it is, he's at this event telling you about the corruption that was taking place under the People's Partnership in just 1 year in office. In his 40, 50, 60 years, right? If we go back 60 years from 2011, when it is that he made that speech, we go back to 1951, before the birth of the PNM. So he's telling you in 40, 50, 60 years, he went through 30 years of Williams. I never see so much corruption in one little island. I went through 5 years under Chambers. I never see so much corruption in one little island. I went through Patrick 5 years of the NAR. I ain't see so much corruption. I went through 4 years of Manning, I ain't see so much corruption. Under Pandey, you ain't see so much corruption. Manning come back. But under the PP, 1 year, he has never seen so much corruption in one little island. People are stealing money like they invented it, like they have a right to thief. He doesn't know why they don't just open the gates of the jail and pack them in. This is Makandal Daga, member of the People's Partnership Government in 2011, telling you that the state of corruption that was taking place, you never see that in the 40, 50, 60 years. 1 year. In 1 year, they beat out, right? All the other administrations before them. But this disrespectful, let me keep it, right? Have the audacity to ask which party could be more corrupt than the PNM? She's serious? When a man that was part of your organization, within 1 year of you all coming into office, is telling the population you all are stealing money like you invented it, like you have a right to thief? He never said that about any, he wasn't talking about the PNM there. Who he was talking about? The People's Partnership, the UNC, all that thieving in the space of 1 year. And I think after he made that speech that things got better, they suddenly came to there was a light from heaven, and they decided to change their ways. They saw the error and they went, no. They doubled down on the thieving, tripled down on the thieving. Is it to hell with Makandal Daga? Yes, as my partner Mano does say, march the X. And that's exactly what they did. They marched the X and went full speed to thief more. But she wanted to come and ask the question, which party could be more corrupt than the PNM? We're going again. Let me read this for you, in case you would have forgotten. We're going again. Let me get it here. This situation has been a serious bugbear for me, right? Since 2020. Mark Bassant the other day did a whole series, a 4-part series on Foster Cummings. But he didn't do a series on this, but he did a story, and I really need to read it again for the benefit of, in particular, the supporters of the UNC, who can't seem to understand or don't want to accept the truth, the fact that the leadership of their party is more crooked than Miss Howard Cat. Right? Let me read this article for you all again. I read it over a year ago when I was still on radio. Padarath relative face financial probes. And I don't understand, how is it we do not have an update on this story in terms of investigation? Because what Mark Bassant uncovered clearly demonstrates the need for an investigation, particularly as the name of the then Prime Minister Kamala Persad-Bissessar was mentioned. Right? But this is dealing with part one of what she said, right? The other thing is with the rich getting richer. I need to treat with that too. And I need to keep track of the time because I told you I'll have Princestown MP Barry Padarath says he cannot recall why he issued 2 First Citizens Bank checks totaling $135,800 in October 2014 to then Prime Minister Kamala Persad-Bissessar while he was her special advisor. He cannot recall why he issued 2 FCB checks totaling $135,800. Now, every time I discuss this issue, I always say, if I lend a man $100, I know why I lent him. Even if I lent him 2 years ago, 3 years ago, I have people owing me money from since Jesus was in Pampers. And I know why I lent it to them, how much I lent it to them. But he couldn't remember why you issued 2 checks to the Prime Minister of Trinidad and Tobago. Not no pleb, no ordinary pleb. The Prime Minister, no less. 2 checks totaling $135,800. You can't remember why. The checks now form part of evidence collected by the Trinidad and Tobago Police Service in a case involving the MP and a female relative. Guardian Media obtained copies of the checks, detailed cabinet notes, and other financial information which we were reliably informed are at the center of the police probe. Officers have obtained several legal orders over the last few months to peruse several bank accounts in the ongoing case after alleged suspicious activities related to the MP's relatives were first flagged by the Financial Intelligence Unit of Trinidad and Tobago. During a walkabout in the Buenintento housing community in Princestown on Wednesday, this is 2020, Guardian Media questioned Padarat about the payments made to Prasad Bisesa and if he remembered what they were for. He said, I have no recollection for what this would have been for. It is in fact legitimate, I could tell you that. It is in fact legitimate checks. But I cannot recollect, this was in 2014, but it would have been totally above board, Padarat said. The source of the money and payments are only part of a wider police investigation into a company which is linked to Padarat's relative. Documents show that Padarat deposited close to $703,000 from his RBC Financial Caribbean bank account on the 7th of March 2016 to the relative's account, also at the same bank via an account-to-account transfer of the funds. The complex financial trail then points to the relative setting up several other bank accounts, including 2 checking accounts of her company. According to the financial information obtained over the years, Padarat allegedly made several check payments to the relative amounting to hundreds of thousands of dollars, and in some cases, she transferred these funds into insurance policies and to her company. Hundreds of thousands of dollars. This is the man whose job it was to tote Kamala's bag all around the place, depositing hundreds of thousands of dollars into his mother's account, right? $703,000 one point in time. Well, if that is how much the Prime Minister Bagman getting, hey, Dr. Rowley, I available or no? I can tote your briefcase. Give me a call now. Investigators found that the relative's company was first registered on January 28, 2011. Right? They came into office in 2010, May of 2010, and had the address of 20 Greenheart Drive, Couva, North Couva, which was the home address of both Padarat and the relative in question. So prior to 2011, this relative, who we know is his mommy, never had no business, right? Not even a parlor, not even a Styrotex or a styrofoam cooler selling juice, nothing of the sort. But in 2011 January, she went and registered a company, right? Documentation also revealed that for the period January 15, 2014 to January 26, 2017, the sum of $162,500 was allegedly paid to Padarat via check from the relative's company. There were 3 checks of $50,000, $10,000, and $25,000 during that period, all paid on different dates for the 3-year period. All paid on different dates. When questioned about this payment, Padarat smiled and said, my only comment to you is that I am an only child, and if you look at the date on those checks, it was my birthday, and I am totally above board, and there is a clear attempt to sully my name, and I am not concerned one bit or the other. A money trail tracked by authorities revealed that during the period 2013 to 2018, just over $15 million passed through the accounts of the relative's company. Incidentally, under the People's Partnership Government, the company obtained contracts from the Education Facilities Company Limited, EFCL, and the Palo Seco Agricultural Enterprises Limited, in the sum of $3.2 million between the period 2012 to 2015. Documents obtained by investigators revealed that the relative's company secured 9 contracts through the PSAEL during the period April 2012 to 2015. Investigators found that 4 of the 9 contracts were awarded to the company through a merit award system. They also discovered that in January of 2011, this is when this company was formed, Rentokil Initial Trinidad Limited tendered a bid to furnish, install, and service soap dispensers at Petrotrin offices in Pointe-à-Pitre after there was an invitation to tender by PSAEL. They discovered that the contract was granted to the relative's company, notwithstanding the fact that Rentokil Initial Trinidad Limited, which has the ability to perform a similar task, tendered a much lower quote. So Rentokil, that has years of experience in doing this, tendered a much lower quote than Padarat and Imami Company. But somehow, they got the tender. They won the tender with a much higher bid than Rentokil. There's nothing wrong there. That's normal thing. Value for money for the taxpayers. Investigators also noted there were 2 instances where, based on the tendering process, selection using the lowest bidder criteria, the service providers recommended were not awarded the contract. So you had a tender process, people bid, including Padarat and Imami Company, companies that have been in existence for years and have experience, that these companies were assessed. and they were recommended. Here what it says there, the service providers recommended were not awarded the contract. How? You have a tender process. We open the tender box, we take out all the tenders, we go through it, right? This is the best company. We recommended this company. The tender evaluation committee recommended this company. And somehow, somebody decide, nah, we going with it. You know, we going with Padarat and Imami company. But that's above board. That's normal. Investigators added that Padarat's relatives company was awarded the contract by the Finance and Tenders Committee, notwithstanding the fact that the bid tendered was double the amount quoted by the other service providers. That was value for money for you, John and Joe taxpayer, under the PP. Yeah. He and Imami bid double. Right? Higher than twice. Remember, Beatam wastewater treatment plant? $400 million more than the other bidder who had 58 years experience. Atlatech, 58 years international experience in building wastewater treatment plants. But we give the contract to SIS for $400 million more, who didn't have not even 1 hour of experience in building wastewater treatment plants. But that is proper procurement under the PP. That is value for money for you, the taxpayer. But she asked the question, which party is the most corrupt? Which party can be more corrupt than the PNM? I continue. The FCL award also awarded at least 20 contracts to the relatives company between September 2011 to September 2014. In some instances, investigators say they were unable to say if work was done on some of the schools that the company was given the contract for, and stated that at least 5 projects in one way or the other does not contain the relevant payment information. So imagine you form a company in January of 2011. You get 20 contracts from EFCL to do work on schools, and you get paid, but they can't confirm whether or not the work was ever done on these schools. But money pass. Guardian Media also asked Padarat about a $703,000 payment made to his relative's account and the ongoing police investigation into his salary when he was the Prime Minister's aide, and the inconsistencies in amounts deposited over the period 2013 to 2017 into his personal account. Padarat gave the following explanation. As I served as an aide, my role and responsibility are to deal with contingency when the Prime Minister travels. So your role is only to deal with the Prime Minister when she travels. So when she in Trinidad, you have nothing to do. You just sit down, cock up your foot in the Prime Minister's office, or you cock up your foot in the Prime Minister's residence watching Young and Restless. You get pay for that. All right. Every Prime Minister is provided with a per diem when you travel and placed in a check in your name. That is where those sums would have come from. Really? Who is Kit Rowley's aide? Anybody knows? Does Kit Rowley have an aide? All right. Padarat added, separate and apart from that, you have to account when the cabinet releases funds to someone holding a contingency. It is not a matter you get free money to spend. You have to reconcile accounts, and when you return to the country, and the office of the Prime Minister should have every piece of documentation where those accounts are reconciled. When I left the office of the Prime Minister, every travel that I accompanied Mrs. Prasad Bissessa on was reconciled with an accounting officer who went item by item, list by list, document by document, bill by bill to ensure those sums were accounted for. As I said, my hands are clean and I am not bothered by PNM machinations and investigation. It took a while for it to come out, but yeah, it's PNM. There's always PNM. Same thing. David Lee, first thing when he come out of the offices of the FIB, is PNM at its best. However, Guardian Media obtained the cabinet notes for the period 2013 to 2015, where investigators perused all authorized travel for Padarat, which included the amounts for travel and the vote from which the money was to be taken. They found that there was no variance to the amounts disbursed as approved by cabinet to be paid. The investigators concluded that the documents provided by the Office of the Prime Minister was done, and it revealed that there were a number of variances in respect to the amounts paid to Padarat when compared to the amounts as were approved in the cabinet notes. So cabinet say, give him 10,000. But when they check the documents of what he really received, he get 20,000 variances. So he collecting money that the cabinet didn't approve. Who approved that? You're asking the question, but she wants to know which party can be more corrupt than the PNM. Investigators alleged Padarat earned way in excess of his eligible remuneration during his tenure as the personal aide to the Prime Minister. Let me repeat that. Investigators allege that Padarat earned way in excess of his eligible remuneration during his tenure as the personal aide to the Prime Minister. Who approved that? So he didn't have a fixed salary, right? His salary was a open check. How much you want this month, Barry? 20,000, no problem. How much you want this month, Barry? 50,000, no problem. We don't have a job description, right? We don't have a classification to say, Barry, this is your salary every month. So when you go to the bank, you want a loan. Okay, this is Barry's salary. The investigators say that, and not the PNM. The PNM didn't say that. The police say Padarat was earning way in excess of what his eligible remuneration was while he was personal aide to Prasad Bisesa. The media ever asked Kamala about that? How it is Barry was making all that money? Who authorized that? Who was paying that? Who was paying? Where that money was coming from? When questioned about the variances as pointed out by the police, Padarat shocked back, stating that will be an issue that will have to be dealt with by the authorities in terms of cross-checking with the office of the Prime Minister. But as I indicated, when I left the office of the Prime Minister, every single travel was accounted for. Barry didn't ask about that. How is it that you were earning salaries way in excess of what you were eligible to get, Barry? Who was approving that? Who was paying that? Which government office? The office of the Prime Minister was paying you that? Asked if he would be willing to cooperate if the authorities approached him, Padarat said, "These matters are in the hands of my attorneys and it will be dealt with by my attorneys. I am not saying anything further. Let them do their work." That's Padarat. Now, if it is everything was above board, it's not an issue. Deal with it there, tell Mark what you need to know so he could lay that to rest. 3 years now. Almost 3 years now, that interview was conducted. July, August of 2020. Here it is. $15 million passed through Padarat and Imami Company. No experience. Company formed in 2011. 20 contracts from EFCL, PSAEL. Plenty contract passing. Instances where his and his mommy's company were winning bids, winning contracts in which they bid double what the lowest, the qualified companies bid. That was the norm under them. This man was the aide to the Prime Minister. Can't remember why he gave the Prime Minister $135,000. He can't remember. But she, who is more than twice his age, her memory sharp, so she could remember, right? So they call her to ask her, and she says, well, you know, with that money, we went on a trip, and the government credit card wasn't working. We had some issues with the government credit card, and so I had to use my personal credit card to pay for these expenses, and I was reimbursed. So just coincidence that Barry had the exact amount of money in his bank account to cover the exact amount of expenses, because Barry is a CIA man. He knew beforehand that that the government credit card was going to malfunction. Oh, just look at PM, don't worry now. Just use the credit card. Whatever is the amount you use, coincidentally, the exact amount will magically appear in my account to give to you. Because that is how it works, right? Barry Padarat, who is not a public official, Barry Padarat, whose job it is, so I'm not even aware if that is a public service position. Your work is to tote around Kamala's bag, right? You're just an aide to the Prime Minister. But you have that kind of money in your account to give to the Prime Minister. What a coincidence that just on this particular trip, you just happen to have that amount of money. They give you that 135, but you can't remember what it was for. But her memory sharp like that, she could tell you, yes, that is what it was for. My credit card, I use my personal credit card. What's the limit on your credit card, Mrs. Prasad Bisesa, your personal credit card? We'd love to know. Because, I mean, unless you had a black card from First Citizens where there is no limit, I know that there are limit ceilings. But even so, I would think, and this is based on my personal experience, I'm a pleb. I am no minister. I hold no public office, really, to see. But if I go away, before I leave, I tell the bank I'm traveling. This is where I'm going to be from X period to Y period. So they know that I'm abroad. So when they see transactions taking place on my credit card in a foreign jurisdiction, They know, well, okay, they check on the system and they see, right, Mr. Romain came in and he said he was traveling and he is in this country. So, right, we expect to see that. If I have a problem with my credit card, I simply call the credit card center, the hotline, right? And I let them know, well, look, this is the situation. My credit card is being declined, whatever it is, whatnot. It's all right, Mr. Romain, we check on it, right? And they fix the problem within no time at all. They could go up on the system and see, well, okay, this is what the issue is, and we fix it. They do that for me and for any average citizen like myself. So if it is the Prime Minister's official credit card is giving problems, it ain't no problem. Pick up the phone, even if you don't call the bank directly for citizens. You call the office of the Prime Minister, call the Permanent Secretary. The Prime Minister's official credit card, which is to be used to fund expenses on this thing, is not functioning. PS is supposed to be able to pick up the phone, call the head of the bank, right? Because this is the Prime Minister card we're talking about. So you could call the CEO of First Citizens and say, hey, the Prime Minister having problems, you need to get this fixed. CEO pick up the phone, call whoever, fix that one time. No, that couldn't happen. Instead, you had to pay with your personal card. And Barry had the money to refund you, and that making complete sense. If it was Keith Rowley had done that, they rake him over the coals. Every Monday night forum, they talk about that. Every Sunday morning press conference, they would have talked about that. They would write letter to the Commissioner of Police demanding an explanation. What is the status of the investigation into this matter? And the Prime Minister must be made to account. They would have got documents from the Cabinet Secretariat, long time, with respect to that. Because they had the people inside. If it is that you could get cabinet note to put up on big screen, so you know what is happening in cabinet when cabinet notes are supposed to be exempt documents. The average citizen can't get that. Not even opposition MP supposed to be able to get that. These are exempt documents. They made a big hullabaloo about that in 2009 when Mr. Manning would have created certain exempt documents. Oh, the UNC up in arms, they're trying to hide the information from the population. They don't want the population to know this, that, the other, and the next. Came into office in 2010. 5 years, 3 months, and 14 days. They were in office. They had a 29-seat majority. They did absolutely nothing to reverse that. They could have done it easily. They did nothing. After you make a big fuss about it, that government Manning and them trying to hide information from the population and don't want people to know. Did you reverse it? No, you left it in place. So all the bubble that took place between 2010 and 2015, that the population wouldn't know about it. That's why. So you have this investigation supposedly taking place involving the Prime Minister, the former Prime Minister. And this is just one of, so when I read that, right, I asked myself the question, is it that Barry knew what that was for? Or he probably gave so many checks to Mrs. Prasad Bisesa. I'm just saying, possibly. Is it that he gave us so many checks? He didn't want to give Mark Basant an answer. And then the reason that he gave for that amount of money is for the wrong checks. So let me say, I can't remember. I need to get the story straight. Because maybe that money was for this. And if I say it was for this and I mix it up, they're going to realize, hey, I can understand how you can't remember, but she can remember. You give $135,000 to the Prime Minister and can't remember. Wait, what it was for? Well, all right. Barry, something wrong with you. You need ginkgo. Something wrong with your brain. Yeah, you need help. But she has the audacity to ask, which party is more corrupt than the PNN? That is just one example, right? And I intend to continue to look at that more intently. The Beaton wastewater treatment plant, where you had a company called Atlatech or Altatech that had 58 years of experience, international experience, right, in building wastewater treatment plants. When you look at the tender evaluation document, they had all of the various rubrics that they were assessing to determine the suitability of the companies. So it came down to SIS, Atlatech, these two companies. When you look at the tender evaluation document for SIS, under every rubric, superior, only superior ratings. SIS is the best company it have to do this work. Everything be assessed, superior. When you're going under Atlatech, they have concerns. This rubric, we have concerns, and they list all of the concerns. This company with international experience, right? SIS have no experience, but everything is superior. Every single one of the concerns that they had with Aglatech was realized under SIS. But you all accepted a bid, $400 million more, from a company that had no experience in building wastewater treatment plants. And you kick out the company that had experience because you had concerns with their bid. You find it too low. What has happened to that project today? Over $750 million of taxpayers' money spent, and it is now a pink elephant, a white elephant, wherever it is you want to call it. But what was most concerning to me with respect to that, and I will pull up, I will come back to this issue on another day, and we will talk about it in more detail. But I need to mention, what was of great concern to me in that matter is that audit firm, international audit firm, KPMG, it used to be called KPMG, Pete Mawick, they were retained by the state to develop the tender evaluation document, right? KPMG. So they developed all of the rubric and everything. They were intimately involved in the process of developing the tender evaluation documents and so on. When it came time for them to actually conduct the tender evaluation, they kick out KPMG, right? They didn't include them on the process. And when they were going through the tender evaluation, there were certain rubrics that they didn't, on whoever the people were sitting on the tender evaluation committee there were certain things that they didn't understand, certain areas. So they had to suspend the meeting, go and call KPMG to ask them, well, here, what now? What does this mean? We're not too sure what this particular rubric entails. You can tell us? And KPMG will tell them, look, so. All right, thanks. And you run back in the meeting. KPMG says so and so and so. All right, okay, nice. And then you're going down the line and you encounter another, we this other one here. You can tell us what that means? Okay, great, nice. And they run back in the room. Why didn't you have at least one representative from KPMG sitting on the tender evaluation committee so that if in case you encounter situations or issues like that, they write in the room and they will be able to give a definition and provide guidance on how to score under that. Why? Because they know the underhandedness that they were engaging in, that it was already a foregone conclusion that SIS was going to get that contract. Foregone conclusion. But how could we have an independent audit firm, sitting in on this process? Because if we do that, they would pick up the discrepancies, the underhandedness, and question, because they're not involved in this. They are the audit firm. Their job is to ensure that everything is above board. And if we have them sitting in the boardroom when we're doing this assessment, we can't do nothing underhanded, no bubble, because they will ask, well, how come you all giving SIS a score for this that is higher than this company? That not making sense. Well, based on what we've seen here with this company, they should have received a higher score based on their experience. But how it is, all they're only giving SIS superior, but they don't satisfy this criteria. They don't satisfy that criteria. So they leave out KPMG and they populated the committee with their people to facilitate the bubble. And that is how SIS was able to get the contract. And as soon as they get the contract, they outsource the entire work, right? The entire job they outsource. Run out of money. Project stall. Krishna jump on a plane, election time, and he gone Panama. Living it up in Panama. $750 some odd million of the very best taxpayer dollars jump up in smoke. Krishna liking himself in Panama. But they want to come and tell you now about Rowley and the PNM and wastage under this wicked and evil PNM government. The supporters ain't ready for that conversation. They don't touch that with a 100-foot pole. All we hearing is Malcolm Jones, AV drilling. But they don't talk about Beaton wastewater treatment plant. Nah, they don't have time for that. We're not interested in that. $750 million. We're not interested in that. You know, we're interested in $100 million from AV drilling. $100 million, which is sitting in our bank account for years, since 2017 in escrow in the unit trust earning interest. $100 million, which is money that Petrotrin owed to AV drilling for verified oil, right? So before Petrotrin paid, they say, well, here, what, we owe them $100 million. So until this matter is sorted out, we ain't paying them the $100 million. So let me take that money and put it in escrow, right? And let it earn interest in the meantime. And if this is sorted out and it is proven that they did not in fact engage in bubble, we give them the money. They studied, they're on that 100 million, but 750 million, 7.5 times that, they ain't interested in that. You know why? Because under Kamlamatics, less is more. So 100 million for them worth more than 750 million. But for those of us who drink in the Balize juice, it's a different story. We understand 750 is more than 100. Yeah? But something wrong with us. Something wrong with the PNM. PNM corrupt since 1956. The most corrupt party it has in this country's history. But we will get into that more at another time, because again, I'm working with that time this morning, and this was the time they left more too. Right, so let me see how quickly I can run through this. In 2020, Dr. Rowley did an interview with Natalie Legault, in which he made a statement: there is nothing wrong with the rich getting richer, but the poor must come out of poverty. The UNC has beaten that like a rented mule, right? Misrepresented what it is the Prime Minister said. And they run in with that. Just like the other one where they say who dead, dead, and who live, live. That the Prime Minister say he ain't care who dead, dead, and who live, live. The Prime Minister never said that. The Prime Minister used those words to characterize the position that had been taken by the OWTU and the trade union movement with respect to how COVID was being handled. That when the Prime Minister was advocating for persons to be more aware of their circumstance with respect to how they carried about themselves with respect to COVID, right? But further to that, the Prime Minister would have been talking about when it is that the government was proposing that persons should get vaccinated, right? In the public service. Remember at one time, the government was saying, well, look, persons need to get vaccinated, and they were looking to make it mandatory that if as a public servant you didn't get vaccinated, well, then you would be furloughed and you wouldn't be earning a salary, and the union came out and so on. And the Prime Minister was saying, look, the union is saying, who want to take the vaccine, let them take it. And who don't want to take it, well, that is up to them. That is their personal choice. So if they die, that's up to them. And that is what the Prime Minister meant when he said, who live, live. The union is basically telling us who live, live, and who dead, dead. Leave it up to them. If they want to live, let them live. And if they want to dead, let them dead. If they want to take the vaccine, fine. And if they don't want to take it, don't try to force it on them. That is what. Of course, that policy was never implemented. Government never followed through on it. But when the Prime Minister said that, it was in that context. He was defining or putting his definition on the position taken by the union. Leave it up to everybody to decide if they want to live or if they want to die. But the UNC, as is the norm, the liars, propagandists that they are, Rowley say, who live, live, and who dead, dead. We'll talk about that another day. Let me play that piece of clip with Dr. Rowley and Natalie Legault.
Well, that is so cliched. I'm not really trying to interfere with the bridge between the rich and the poor, because there's nothing wrong with the rich getting richer, but the poor must come out of poverty. Right? So
well, that's kind of bridging the gap,
that is the equation. It's not a seesaw where one has to go down for the other one to come up. You have to find a way that you encourage the rich to get richer, because in getting richer, they create opportunities for the poor. Opportunity. And of course, if one wants to take advantage of opportunities that are made available, one has to prepare oneself, right? To make the sacrifice, to make the effort, because out of effort will come reward. So it's not a simple up and down situation. It is that you have a target of ensuring that no one is left behind and that there's opportunity for everyone to move up.
One of the things
they don't talk about that part. All they hear, the rich must get richer. And what the Prime Minister clearly said there, in terms of bridging the gap between the rich and the poor, right? It's not a situation where the rich have to say, well, here what now? We need to stop getting rich so that the poor can catch up. That is what the Prime Minister is saying. If you encourage the rich to get richer, encourage them to continue to do what it is they're doing without any government help. When they take private capital and open more businesses and expand their businesses, they create opportunities. Since COVID subsided, we want to call it that. One company, and this is just one example, Starbucks has opened 6 new branches in the last year. 6. Every one of these branches has persons working. persons gainfully employed. Starbucks now has 15 branches. 15. Now, if it is Christian Mute and Prestige Holdings that had not decided to open these 15 branches, the employees, the probably over 100 and something workers in these 15 outlets and more to come, where would they have been working? Some of them probably would have been home scratching and making no income. But because the rich decided on their own volition to expand their businesses and become richer, they have created opportunities. But the people who are working in these establishments, are they taking advantage of the opportunity? Are they saying, well, you know what, I don't plan to be a barista or a cashier, or I don't plan to be whatever is your position in this establishment, to stay here forever. Let me see what are the opportunities for advancement. How can I become the manager of the branch? What opportunities are there for me to move up? How can I move up in this organization from this position to something higher? Are there opportunities for me to develop myself, to use some of the income that I am earning here now to be able to improve my skill set or to improve my academic background so that I could have, when it is vacancies appear in head office, I could move from a branch to a head office position. But you see, the UNC's mindset is to think that when you're here, when the rich get richer, they create opportunities for the poor. It's only jobs. That's the only opportunities that they can create in terms of they expand their business and they need workers, just ordinary workers. But it is not the income that these workers could generate to improve their lot, to start a small business on the side. You know? And these things, rather than you sit down home and waiting for divine intervention. You go out there and you earn income. You're earning something, you could pay your bills at the end of the month and try and save a little something to improve your lot. The UE Open Campus, offering so many different courses and a variety of things, hundreds of courses to improve your station, ranging from $1,000 to $1,300, $1,600, short courses, and a variety of things to improve yourself. If you go and you do 2-3 of these courses and you get your certificates, you could make an application to head office. They might have an opening and they pull you in. And before you know it, your situation improves, you're earning a higher salary, and you continue to climb the ladder. But the only thing the UNC got from that, Rowley say, the rich must get richer. They didn't hear the part where he said, but the poor must come out of poverty. They didn't hear that. That everybody has to move up. They didn't hear that part. All they hear is the rich must get richer. Well, let us examine who really making the rich richer. Let's examine that. I go in again. I don't monitor that time and all. I wouldn't be able to discuss this fully as I would like to. But let me get this here. Where is it? Where is this article? Someone give me 1 sec. So they're talking about how much money the Heritage CEO getting, right? $180,000 a month. Foreigner. The man has to relocate. He had to come to Trinidad, obviously. He had to find accommodation. Anyway. This is an article dated 26th of June, 2012, entitled, Hawaii Gets 10 Million Parting Gift from First Citizens. The board of state-owned bank, First Citizens, approved the payment of $10 million to its departing chief executive officer, Larry Hawaii, 2 days before Prime Minister Prasad Bisesa announced that Hawaii would be the country's new Minister of Finance, a job that gives him, as corporation sole, oversight of state-owned companies, including First Citizens. The payment to Hawaii, who took early retirement from the bank effective June 24th, is over and above the pension and gratuity that he is entitled to receive as an employee who worked for 32 years at the bank and its predecessors, NCB and Workers Bank Limited, said the chair of First Citizens, Nairi Alfonso. So we see where Padarat, Totin Kamlabag, was earning an income in excess of what he was entitled to receive, eligible to receive. Right? So Padarat is a millionaire. $15 million passed to he and Mami account between 2011 to 2015. Okay? But Rowley want to make the rich richer. Let me read this part again. The payment to Hawaii, who took early retirement from the bank effective June 24th, is over and above the pension and gratuity that he is entitled to receive as an employee who worked for 32 years at the bank and its predecessors. said Chairman of First Citizens, Nairi Afonso. And we had to deal with Nairi at another time too with respect to that whole issue with the Superfast Galicia and conflict of interest. But we will deal with that. We have plenty to talk. We ain't just talking about why you shouldn't vote for them in this election. No. We starting, listen, 2025 election campaign, as far as I'm concerned, starts already. I ain't waiting until 25. She said the payment is in recognition of his exceptional service to the organization as well as for the benefit of the bank in terms of attracting and retaining the best personnel who would be assured that they too would be rewarded if they give long and meritorious service to First Citizens. After the 10 million was an ex gratia payment, Alfonso resisted the use of the term, which refers to a sum of money paid when there is no obligation or liability to pay. But she admitted, we are not under any obligation to pay, but we decided to pay the sum based on precedent and our ability under the Companies Act to make such a payment. Alfonso said all of the 10 million was based on the internal precedent from calculations going back to 2005 and of what 3 senior managers who left the company received. Based on his salary at the time of his departure and his 32 years of service, the formula used to calculate the consideration to Hawaii was not in any way different or preferential than that received by senior managers departing from the bank in circumstances which were not dissimilar to his. The decision was taken by non-executive directors of the bank only, with 2 directors recusing themselves. So there were at least 2 directors of the First Citizens Bank board appointed by the people who say, I don't want no part of that, you know. Hawaii not entitled to that money. But all they just decide to give he 10 million just so, because of what? Nobody forced he to lead the work. He decided he leaving the job to become Minister of Finance. They ain't put a gun to his head and say, come and become Minister of Finance. He could have said thanks, but no thanks. He decided to leave. He resigned and he taking early retirement. All you want to give he 10 million? Well, you see me, leave me out of that. Because you see, when it is they lost the election and the PNM come in and they bust their mark, right? I don't want my name called up in that bacchanal at all. I recuse. 2 of them say that. But the rest of them decide, yeah, give the man the 10 million. It was later, trying to find the article where it was later shown that it was in fact 11.1 million that was paid and not the initial 10 as recorded in this. The matter was first discussed at a board meeting on June 11th, but that meeting was adjourned pending the receipt of legal advice, which was sought and received from Russell Martino. The final decision was taken on June 20th. The final decision, which was taken on June 20th, was based on both the precedent and the advice received from Martino. Alfonso said, this same, you are a big attorney. I think she's senior counsel too, I'm not too sure. Nairi Alfonso. But you ain't sure. You couldn't make a decision based on your legal acumen. So you decided to spend additional money to retain senior counsel Russell Martino to give you an opinion. So that's more money added on to the 11 million. Right. Alfonso conceded that the public perception of the 10 million payment might be awkward. Really, Nairi? But she maintained that she would have made the payment had he received another portfolio. I will take jabs for saying that I was trying to placate my boss, my new boss. It does look a little awkward, but only because of the portfolio he assumed. So even if he was put in another ministry, I would have still paid him the 10 million. Never mind the fact that as Minister of Finance, he is now my boss because the board reports to Corporation Seoul, who is the Minister of Finance. Asked whether the decision had the approval of Corporation Seoul, which owns 97% of the shares in First Citizens, Alfonso said the role of a board of a state-owned company is oversight and governance. As a matter of governance, I do not need the line minister to direct me on an issue like this, nor would I have tried to seek such approval in these circumstances. So she didn't ask Bukaran if his soon-to-be successor should be paid $10 million, $11.1 million to become his successor, right? She said, adding that as the chair of a state-owned company, she does not take day-to-day instructions from the Minister of Finance, but that relationship is governed by checks and balances. Efforts to contract or to contact the Minister of Finance proved futile up to press time. So the permanent secretary, who is just below the minister in a ministry, has a limit of up to $1 million in approval. Anything over $1 million has to go to cabinet for approval, which is why cabinet had to approve the $6 odd million that they spent to take up the fire truck. The permanent secretary couldn't approve that. The board, and as somebody who sits on a board, a state board, I can tell you how it works. right? We can't just make a decision like that, contrary to what Nairi is saying here. We can't say we're going to spend $10 million just so. You're mad? You had to get that. That has to go to cabinet for approval. This is state money, government money, citizens' money. Talking about $10 million. Well, 11.1. You just give him that. He's not entitled to it. You know, but we use some bogus calculation and we say, let me give him that. But Rowley want to make the rich richer, right? So Hawaii, when he left with citizens, was much richer than when he entered, much richer than the time, up to the time that he chose to retire, to resign, right? Or to take early retirement. Yeah, I wonder if that played a factor in his decision to take up the work, to become the Minister of Finance. No other government in this country's history, as far as I know, no other prime minister has ever had to pay a man millions of dollars to take up a position as a minister. People tripping over themselves to be plebs, to serve on a board where you're getting a small stipend every month. People tripping over themselves to be councillors and so on. And you have this man. What is his claim to fame? That you felt the need to pay him $10 plus $11 million to leave the work. Now your argument might say, well, because I think when they did interview, I can't remember if it was Kamala or some other member of cabinet, on the matter, you know what they say? Well, you know, if he had remained in the work until his retirement, actual retirement, he would have earned similar sums. So we decided to compensate him for the money that he would have lost out on. So when he became Minister of Finance, he was working for free? Gratis? So for the 4 years or so that he was Minister of Finance, he didn't collect a salary to compensate for as a portion of what his salary was as head of First Citizens Bank. Basic salary, $41,000 a month, and when you add all of the other perks that he was getting, housing allowance, yada, yada, about $60,000 a month he was collecting as Minister of Finance. So if you want to put forward that argument, the sensible thing to do is say, well, if his salary in First Citizens was $120,000 or whatever it is, minus what he would be earning as a minister, right? From what he would have earned had he remained in his work, pay him the difference. No. Pay him $11 million. And then he come on the job as Minister of Finance and we pay him his full salary plus perks every month. Yeah? But Rowley and the PNM want to make the rich richer. Who made Hawaii richer? Rowley do that? Which minister? Which of Rowley's 22 ministers collected $10 million to leave their previous employment and become a minister in this government? Which one? Anybody can tell me? But the supporters, UNC, they aren't ready for that conversation. No, we ain't talking that. They're not interested in that conversation. But they want to talk about A.V. Jillin. Yeah? Rowley wants to make the rich richer. Let's take that further. The UNC has stoutly resisted property tax since 2009. It was one of the issues that they rode the back on to get into office. Axe the tax. Remember they tell us no tax. That wasn't the only thing they said. They said no highway and no byway with respect to the highway to Point 14. When we come in, the highway going and stop. Not only did it not stop, they take $7 billion from the treasury to continue and complete the highway. But no highway and no byway, as my partner from Barataria say. You all forget that. So, no property tax. Okay. They come into office in 2014, the same $1 million Minister of Finance, who he has unique skills that nobody else has. Never mind the fact that he would have been the CEO of First Citizens Bank when $10 million went missing from the bank account of the National Energy Corporation. You remember that? The $10 million that went missing and they said it was used to buy hot dog and ketchup to send to Guyana. That happened under him while he was the CEO of First Citizens, under his watch. It was under his watch, I think with his approval, I stand to be corrected, but I believe so. Over $400 million was given to a consortium of 3 businessmen to build the Carlton Savannah. Unsecured loan, $400+ million, right, was given to them. Carlton Savannah flop. It was used during the Commonwealth Heads of Government meeting in 2009 in November, when the late Queen Elizabeth came here and she and Prince Philip stayed at the Carlton Savannah, and I think that was probably the most prominent guest they ever had. And after that, we know what happened. Hotel went into receivership, $400 and something million of citizens' money, because First Citizens is a state-owned bank, gone up in smoke. no collateral. So it had nothing for the bank to seize other than the hotel. So the personal assets of these three businessmen was untouched. So they could have just walk away from it. It doesn't impact our personal bank accounts. Let them take the hotel, let them sell it. We don't care. Yeah, that was under Hawaii. But that was worthy of $11 million to leave your work and become minister. Yeah? But Rowley want to make the rich richer. Coming back to the issue of the property tax. So they say axe the tax, no property tax. But in 2014, the same $1 million minister announced that they would be bringing back property tax on a phased basis over the next 3 years, from 2014 to 2017. Residential, commercial, industrial, and the like. Kamala sat down right next to him when he said that during his budget speech. Right? After you tell the people no tax, axe the tax, no property tax, this wicked and evil government. Yeah? We will reinstitute the old land and building taxes. And then when they came into office, Dukaran say, well, you know, we realized we encountered some legal hurdles that are preventing us from being able to re-implement these old taxes. So we can't go back to that. These tax rates that was around since 1900, yeah, when it was still horse and cat, horse and buggy, those rates were around since then. We can't provide that. So, you know, we're going with a new system. And after the fact now, in 2015, just before election, how I say, well, you know, yes, I made a speech and I did indicate, but we had consultation subsequent to that with the business community. And the business community would have told us that, you know, that may not be the best thing. So you announce government policy, cabinet decision, put the cart before the horse. You announce the policy, and then you went out to do consultations with who? The business community, you know. Not the average citizen who are now prostituting to get votes on that. You went out to the business community, the rich, and you consult with them, and the rich say, hold up on that, but you ship it. You hell wrong with all you. We'll come again, eh? And then they come back and say, well, the government had done about it, so we decided we'll take a second look at it. But it's Rowley want to make the rich richer. Let's examine. They have been prostituting, and I'll keep using that word because that's what they're doing. Poor, and they're focusing on residential property tax only, right? That if you ain't pay the tax, this government wicked and evil and it's only tax. Never mind the fact that this government has given the most amount of tax concessions to the average citizen than any other government, as far as I can recall, right? They increase your PAYE 3 times, they reduce VAT from 15% to 12.5% and other things, right? They've removed VAT on a number of things like electronics, phone, tablet, all of these different things they've reduced VAT on. I went to PriceMart yesterday, and the person in front of me, his bill came up to $1,533.90. I looked at it because he had quite a bit of stuff in his basket, in his trolley. Interestingly enough, you know how much his VAT, the VAT was on all of that he purchased? $65.94 in VAT. On a bill of $1,533.90, $65 in VAT. But they want to tell you, Rowley put back VAT on everything, right? 65 on 1,500. They ain't ready for that conversation. So they only focusing on the residential aspect of it, right? And this government wants to kill you with tax, and if it is you can't pay tax, they will take your house and all that. Meanwhile, because of the failure to implement the property tax, the industrial and the commercial side of things, you have the business owners in this country, all the money that they should be paying in property tax, not just on property, but plant and machinery, they get in to keep it. Every year, Republic Bank, Scotia Bank, RBC, FCB, with all the branches all over the physical branches all over the country, reporting that they're making how many hundreds of millions and billions of dollars in profits. How much of that is being paid in property tax on all the branches, the physical property, the plant and machinery? Zokes, zero, nada, not one dime of property tax being paid. They get in to keep it as part of their after-tax profits so that they could give it out to their shareholders as dividends, right? Who making the rich richer? So that when the UNC come and tell you, no property tax, resist the property tax, you know what they're saying? We don't want Ansa Makal and Mr. Sabga and his family to have to be paying millions of dollars in property tax for companies like Carib and Carib Brewery that making all this money. We don't want Mr. Sabga to have and Ansa Makal to have to pay property tax on all the other companies. You see all those buildings they own on St. Vincent Street and on Richmond Street, not St. Vincent, Richmond Street, where they have all these car companies, Mitsubishi Motors and Classic Motors, and on Charles Street where they have Trafalgar Motors, where they have the Range Rover and Jaguar and all of these vehicles. We don't want them to have to pay any property tax on these buildings. That would reduce the amount of money they have in the bank account. That would make the rich poorer. So let us resist property tax on the whole so that all of these rich people wouldn't have to suffer. Faris Al-Rawi is saying to you, we want property tax. Zaman Enterprises is saying, we want the property tax. So all the time we only hear about how much money the government paying Faris every month for all these buildings and Faris and how much money Faris family collecting every month. And Faris saying, bring the property tax. So the government, the state, you, the citizens, would not only get income tax from the rental income that we collected, you will also get property tax on all these buildings. So they say are receiving how much millions of dollars every year for number 1 Alexandra Street, number 3 Alexandra Street, for the building on Long Circular Road opposite Long Circular Mall, for the building on St. Vincent Street that houses the Ministry of Social Development. They want to tell you that my family receiving all this money. Well, here what we're saying, bring on the property tax so we could give back more of that money back to the country in the form of property tax. So it's not only income tax. Kamala and the UNC say, no. We don't want Faris to have to pay all that money in property tax. Let Faris keep that property tax money in his bank account so that he and his family could be richer. And same thing, we don't want Mr. Aboud to have to pay millions of dollars in property tax for his water park down in Carenage. We don't want Mr. Aboud to have to pay millions in property tax for the Bricks Hotel. We don't want Mr. Aboud, who owns Amalgamated Security Services, who collected all these millions over the years for transporting prisoners and who benefited from taxpayers' money in a healthy way. The same Mr. Aboud who we gave 4 acres of land in Shagaramas for $1 a year for 30 years with the intention of leasing for him to build a car park so we could lease back that car park for $900,000 a month. We don't want him to have to pay tax on that car park. No property tax. We don't want Mr. Azar to have to pay property tax for West Mall. We don't want Mr. Azar to have to pay property tax for Dairy. We don't want Mr. Azar to have to pay property tax for LSD Plaza, where he's collecting millions of dollars in rent every month from all of these stores. How we could do that to Mr. Azar? We will make him poorer. But it's Rowley and the PNM want to make the rich richer. And we don't want George Aboud to have to pay any property tax on all the millions of dollars he collected in rent for Gulf City Mall. We don't want Mr. George Aboud and Sons to have to pay millions in property tax for this new mall that he just opened in Trin City called Eastgate that is almost entirely tenanted. No. We don't want Mr. Aboud to have to pay that for all the other buildings that he owns around the place. We don't want him to have to pay that wicked property tax that will break him and his family. Of course not. So the next time you go down to Movie Town, and you look around at all the businesses in Movie Town, just know Derek Chinham paying 1 dime of property tax for that space. The next time you go to the Movie Town Theater, when you go down to C3 or anywhere, when you go down to Price Plaza, just know that Mr. Aboud, who owns Price Plaza, ain't paying 1 dime in property tax for all the money that he collecting in rent. You have banks and all kind of things situated in that plaza, paying millions of dollars in rent every year. But not 1 penny of property tax being paid to the state. So they're enjoying all that money that they would have paid if it is property tax that come into play. They get to keep it, hug it up in their bank account. Go up and every day pull up on the computer, pull up their online banking and watch the bank account and smile. Yes, thank you, Kamala Prasad-Bissessar. Thank you, UNC, that my balance is this and it is not this because I don't have to pay property tax. And I want you all to continue to fight that fight. No property tax so we can keep the money and buy 2 and 3 more yachts, and buy more houses and in Diego Martin and Goodwood Park, and we could buy more property in Florida and New York so that our children and our grandchildren, because the scriptures say, a wise man leaves an inheritance for his children's children. So we're not only thinking about 2 generations, we want to have enough money for 15 and 20 generations. And the millions that we would have to pay in property tax, thanks to the UNC and Kamala Prasad-Bissessar, we get to keep it in our bank account and earn interest and build more businesses and buy more property and pay no property tax. And we get to keep that money because Rowley want to make the rich richer. Rowley, who is the one who's saying, bring the property tax. So Faris could pay property tax. And all the rest of those people that I mentioned, every bloody business in this country that had to pay property tax, so that there's more money in the government coffers to pay the damn road that lead into these businesses, right? All the money that Junior Sammy making, collecting hundreds of millions, billions of dollars every 5 years to pave a road. But you know what? They ain't paying 1 cent of property tax on any of the buildings. Plant and machinery, not 1 dime in property tax. All that money they get in to keep. But Rowley want to make the rich richer. Who has it in their manifesto for 2020 that said they will reduce corporation tax from 30%, where Rowley have it, and 35% for the banks? We're going to cut it in half to 18%. Half. So they will be paying half the amount of tax that they pay now, thanks to the PNM. They will pay half of that under People's Partnership or under the UNC. But Rowley want to make the rich richer. It is Rowley who operationalized government campus and moved government departments and ministries out of all those private buildings and put it in government property so that we have to pay all them millions in rent. How many of these 1% own pockets dented because of that? 6-7 years later, the buildings remain empty, unoccupied, no rent collected in the last 6 or 7 years. But Rowley want to make the rich richer. When for 5 years, 3 months, and 14 days, you could have done the same thing as soon as you came into office when money was running. The $7 billion that you take out of the treasury to say you're going and finish highways so that you wouldn't have to face the scrutiny of the IADB. That money, you didn't need $7 billion. You could have probably used $1 billion to outfit government campus. And for that 5 years, 3 months, and 14 days, the rental money that you was paying could have saved. And the 1% who own these buildings, the same 1% you all like to malign now, in whose back pocket you claim Rowley is, right? That money could have gone to benefit the citizens. So instead of taking the exchequer account from 10 billion in overdraft to 13 billion, it could have been less if it is you had done that. But you didn't see it fit to do that. But Rowley want to make the rich richer, right? So all them big house and them in Valsine, you say 1% you're talking about in Goodwood Park, Westmoreland, Highland Park, Ellerslie Park, Federation Park, all these massive houses ain't paying 1 penny, not a dime in property tax. You know what? They're going to keep it. And what does that make them? Poorer? It makes the treasury poorer. It makes us, the average citizens, poorer. Because when it is we complaining about the state of the road in a mess, and every week I had to be going by the mechanic to fix this and fix that, because the government don't have the money to conduct the kind of paving that we want to do. When they're telling you the property tax money will go into the coffers of the regional corporation so they can undertake this paving, instead of you already depending on the Ministry of Works to pave all the roads. But you're not going to call on the contractors who making all this money, not paying any property tax. Some of them is their big trucks that mashing up the road. But you wouldn't call on them to do something about it to give us better quality roads. They're griping and complaining now about the Manzanilla Road there, the bypass road that it's in a state. Who paved it? I don't recall seeing any videos or pictures of Rohanson and Ann sitting in an excavator or a backhoe or paving any road. The contractor did that. But rather than hold the contractor responsible for shoddy work, blame Rohan, blame the government. And for years, we have been going through that, right? All the roads that the PP paved between 2010 to 2015, how many of those roads still standing strong today? Why is that? Why is that? Ask yourself that. Every time pothole is the government and the government. You know why? Because we know contractors smart. We need to pave these roads to last 3 years at best, so that every 3 years we could get $1 million contracts to pave it over. And that is how we will continue to make plenty money and build our bank accounts for generations and generations and generations to come. Yeah, the plebs and them could gripe how much they want. It don't matter. The public servants whose responsibility it is to ensure that the works are done properly, Right? The public servants who collect their salary every month to go and check to make sure the right amount of asphalt was used, the right mix of asphalt and bitumen and whatever was used to make sure that this road lasts for at least 5 years. But when it is, they ain't do their work, right? Because they don't want to upset the apple cart. And we end up at slipshod work, and in the space of 1 year, 2 years, the road gone through. Blame Keith Rowley, blame Rohan Sinanan, and blame the cabinet, but don't blame the contractor who digging out the eyes of the population. I wouldn't say, well, you know, all these millions we make it. Hey, what now? Let us adopt a few roads. Let us be good citizens, good corporate citizens, and pave a few of these roads. Even if it is that we don't pave it fully based on our strength, we could negotiate with the government and say, here, what? We want to give back to the country as citizens who have benefited from the wealth of this country. So here, all you pay for the material, and we will subsidize the cost. We will take care of the labor costs and all of that. Just pay for the material and whatnot, right? They ain't doing that. They're driving on the same road. Their big truck mashing up the same road. But you know what? They're happy every time they go wrong in a pothole. Yes, boy. We're waiting for that fiery protest so we could get a call. Tara come and pave it. So we could get a few more millions in our bank account. Meanwhile, back at the ranch, no property tax. We had to worry about that. That's one less tax we have to worry about. Yes. Thanks to Kamala and the UNC, no property tax will ever come. And we will live nice. But Rowley and the PNM want to make the rich richer. Let's see the time here, folks. I had to take some calls because I said I had a bus out just now. I'll continue on this topic on another day. 770-1763. 770-1763. Yeah. Listen, if I didn't have that engagement this afternoon, I would have stayed longer. But unfortunately, duty calls. Right. Let me see here. So let me just connect this. What am I calling us this morning? Why isn't this connected? 770-1763. Right. So 1 sec. I see any color, but this thing not playing ball with me this morning. I don't know why. Let me turn this off. Turn it back on. Let's see if this will work. Yes, inside. Hello, good afternoon. Or is it morning, sir? Yes, sir, just now. I'm going to try and sort this out. Why is this frustrating me? Yes. Bear with my caller. I don't know why this frustrated me this morning. Yeah. Trying to get it to connect, but it's not connected. It's connected. This now. Oof, technology, boy, is a hell of a thing. That's why. That is why. Good. Just now. Right. Let me see if I get you now. Go ahead. Hello? Hello? Do you know what happened? Yes. There we go. Hello. Good afternoon. Yeah, just why this thing? I don't know why this doing it. Just now. Right. Okay. Yes, caller. Go ahead. Hello. 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 Yes.
Dominic, you can hear me now?
Loud and clear.
Nice one. Good morning to you. Good morning to the listeners.
Morning.
For your program, and I hope we have a good Corpus Christi.
Yes.
And today's a good day for planting stuff like that. So I look now for the weather related on today. Dominic, congratulations. Continue what you're doing, and for the wonderful information. with this plethora information, and I hope that we can compile these things
Yes.
for the upcoming local government election. Because let me tell you something, huh? The other side is like angry. They really grasping at straws, and they will do anything right now to get a little bit of relevancy right now. So they will grasp up anything, any little negative news, a little thing.
Right.
They're gonna take it to the campaign trail and turn that positive and negative. So I'm looking at that right now. Let me tell you something, yeah. I think this country is always suffering from Stockholm syndrome, yeah. And all the things that are going with Dr. Rowley is a dictator. Dr. Rowley is no good, he and his authoritarian regime. One is giving the impression that Dr. Rowley is in the same level as Vladimir Putin and this person president of China. Right. If Dr. Rowley was a dictator, these so-called platformers and them wouldn't have the liberty to blabber them or call them all kind of names like blank man and stuff like that. You would have had the secret police knock at the door and take down all the so-called digital platform, and they will probably end up in jail or disappear, correct?
Right.
Right, too. And also, if Dr. Rowley was a dictator, like Idi Amin or Mobutu or them fellas and them, that gentleman in Tobago, who is a little dictator himself, who didn't show up, and people to account for the money that they lost, particularly in the jazz festival last year.
Yes.
Account, they didn't turn up. You heard about it? They didn't show up,
Yep.
Yeah, they didn't show up, right? He's a little dictator himself. If Dr. Rowley was a dictator, sorry, the chief secretary and a whole bunch of things would have been in jail already. He would be called a dictator.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah. So I think Trinidad and Tobago, certain people, they suffer exactly and cut them. And apparently what Frank this lawyer said, apparently Trinidad and Tobago really want a real dictator. Trinidad and Tobago are ready for that, and they probably want a dictator, but Israel can't say it. Trinidad and Tobago, the people desire for a dictator to really run this country.
Yes.
We got a little taste of it from Basu Pandey when he wanted the thing a green bill on the media. Well, remember the day, I don't know if you would remember it, but from 1996 to 2001 under Basu Pandey, he was at war with the media.
Yes.
To the point they had legislation to do what they want with the media house. We got a little taste with the Kamala Prasad Bissessa when they was dominating the media houses.
Yes.
With the state media. Right? So I don't know what these people want. Right? And with respect to that disrespectful, disingenuous individual by Amel Robert. I just ask myself, how the hell will Vincent Dukoran, COP leader Vincent Dukoran, was able to bring this man in the fold? Yes. This man, Amel Robert, went on that COP ticket to win a seat. But he was always yellow at heart, he was always a UNC at heart. The only way you are over there, but we really have to fight this battle there because it'll be one after misinformation. You see right now with this thing with but I see that Mr. Marcel won his case against the state.
Yes.
The spend doctors and they will probably say, well, you see, look. The state taunting this PNM activist, and they will say that it was Rowley who was responsible for the police thing. They will turn it against that, The same thing with the so-called doctor, I don't know if you follow the situation with the doctor, Mr. Wendell, the protesting thing. They will turn that too, and they will probably say, look at the Indian minister under the PNM is not reinstating the African doctor. We're not getting the story to the full details of it as yet, but they could turn that into a negative. You understand what I'm saying, Mr. Dominic?
Yes, yes.
So, like I said again, we had to dispel this information, and we see all the truth when they come down the road. You have a good day.
You too. Thank you. Hello? Hello?
Dominic, good morning.
Yes, sir. Good day.
You're going to have plan to your tour or what?
If what?
You're going to have plan to your tour?
No, sir.
Hey, Dominic.
Yes, sir.
I'd like you to do me a favor if you have the time today. Recently, you played a tape by Anil Robert and Neil Williams.
Yes.
If it's possible, you can play that tape for me again.
All right. Which one is this exactly?
Because I heard him mention something that I've been asking questions about. I don't know if I asked you or Sir Charles on Power 1 or 2 about it. But I would like to hear that tape again.
No problem.
And I will show you certain things. Nonsense Dr. Rowley and Stuart Young did.
Oh, Lord.
I will leave it there for now.
Thank you. Yeah. Hello, good afternoon. Morning, sir. Good morning.
Dominic, good morning.
Morning, sir.
Before I talk to you, I had a laugh. When I hear these people behaving as a... Listen, all right. Dominic, you talk about this property tax. And my thing is, they are frightening the so-called, they want to call it poor.
Yes.
But why do the people who properties are below a certain value want to pay the property?
Right.
They want to pay the tax. It is exactly what you said. They are protecting themselves from paying property tax and industrial tax and all the other taxes. But where would we get revenue? Where does the government get revenue to facilitate all of these payments? And I don't know, Dominic. You are doing a fantastic job. But where is the PNM machinery to really further educate PNM people and other people to bring them into this whole to understand? Right? So, brother, I have to commend you all the time, for the work that you're doing.
Thank you.
And I want that God will give you, strength to continue doing this work. And I know you're doing it selflessly, my brother.
Yes.
So God bless you, and I appreciate what you're doing.
Thank you.
I will continue listening. I ain't saying what you say, all we have to say. Okay,
Thank
brother?
you. Yes.
Have a blessed day.
You too. Hello. Good afternoon. Good morning.
Hi, Dominic. Good morning.
Hi, morning.
Carol.
Hi, Carol.
How are you?
I am good.
Hi.
And
I came in a bit late, so I'm not sure if this was said.
Yes.
But I'm seeing now a propaganda going out there of telling people Trinidad and Tobago, I think I said to you, has the highest rate of property tax. And people need to be aware when buying property in Trinidad of this high rate, because we have the highest rate in property tax. So it has started, the fake news that starts going out of all the what is happening with property tax, why we shouldn't pay, etc., etc. And people don't realize these same people who now saying don't pay the property tax, they have property in Miami, in Canada, and all these places, and they pay their property tax. And you know, and I know the taxes on these things are heavy.
Yes.
And they pay it without a murmur. But the small property tax, and they say the poor people here now will be just paying a small amount.
Yes. And
did not think about it just as, I think it's $80, if so much, according to your income.
Yes.
And if it's old people in a house, they might even pay taxes, property tax on their property. So it's just, I think, people trying to fool people. And what is going out there is that Rowley just trying to suffer and squeeze the poor people. So the fake news have started going out.
Yes.
So we have to be aware. So keep up the good work and try to educate people and let people know after the program we can still share what you have live. We can still share it to other people to educate them. Thank you. Have a good day.
Thank you, Carol.
Bye.
So I will do a program on the property tax, because I can tell you, based on my limited research so far, Trinidad and Tobago has one. Hey, boss. Morning.
Yeah, me?
Yeah, loud and clear.
Yeah, Dominic.
Yes, sir.
Let me tell you something, right? And the program is throughout the world, and you see the citizens inside of Trinidad and outside.
Mm-hmm.
Then will make the independent thinkers will make the decision for Trinidad and Tobago, right?
Right.
Because let me tell you something. You see, business people, independent people like the country to be stable, right? And they see economic growth. The country is on development, which way they can make money.
Mm-hmm.
That's the government they're going to stick with. They will not change and move Dr. Rowley and put the UNC and they know what the UNC want to do to take us to the IMF, devalue the dollar. All these big things is taken into consideration when you are thinking about your future when you have business, right?
Mm-hmm.
And the best government right now, because Dr. Rowley is talking to world leaders all over the world. When last you see Trinidad and Tobago was in that kind of leadership under the UNC, she didn't even get a chance to talk to Biden. Right now, Dr. Rowley is in the Bahamas talking to the Vice President Kamala Harris. Right? So there's a lot of opportunity for Trinidad and Tobago under Dr. Rowley.
Mm-hmm.
And you see the property tax? The property tax will be 3% on residential.
Mm-hmm.
That's about $95 a month. At the end of the year, is about $1,200, Dominic, for the whole year for property tax. Every month, you pay about $90-something,
mm-hmm.
right, for residential. So a man paying a cable bill a month is $600-700, and you pay $90-something a month to live, and you don't want to pay that?
Right.
Then something is totally wrong with you. But again, what I'm telling you, the independent and those people will decide the election who they want to stabilize Trinidad and Tobago. And right now, Dominic, I don't know why I'm voting for. I can tell you that publicly. I'm telling you I'm voting for Dr. Rowley and the PNM.
Yes.
You know why I'm saying that? I am seeing growth. I'm seeing the country advance under the pandemic. Look at the two quarters of Valencia to San Grande Road, right? Point 40.
Mm-hmm.
Look at the highway going down there. Look at the corrupt interchange and look at the OS project with the point 40. Look how much money that government saved us while the UNC was taking a clause out to rob the citizen money, right? And the government saved us. Look at the Piarco scandal. Look what they say. They say they bleed the treasury and they get back after 20-something years. Dr. Rowley and Paris and them get back nearly $1 billion. Eh? Dominic?
Yes.
We want to choose.
Mm-hmm.
I want to choose Bly or I see it.
Yes.
I better choose what I see it, brother, right? Good program and keep up the good work, man.
Thank you, sir. 7701763. I was making the point before that based on my limited research so far, most other countries in the Caribbean, what they use to determine the property tax is the market value, fair market value of your home, not the rental value. So there's no way our rates could be the highest. But anyway. Hello, good morning. Hello, good morning. (653), you're on.
Hello.
Hi, morning.
Hi, good morning to you, Dominic.
Morning.
Are you hearing me clearly?
Loud and clear.
Okay, you can judge people by what they have done before. Now, the UNC always comes out with the poor and the poor and the poor. But if you look, when Kamala stuck out her neck for the financiers, when the government won the case, right?
Mm-hmm.
She didn't care that she was a past prime minister. She didn't care how that looked. Is there any time you can tell us that she stuck out her neck for the poor people? No. Thank you, Dominic. Great program as always.
Thank you. What she did was Mama Guy poor people before she became prime minister. So she represented squatters, went to court to prevent the government from demolishing squatter settlements. And as soon as she became prime minister, and people figure, well, this is the squatting prime minister. Stop thing. tear down the people's homes. Say we go in Labrinex, tear down the man's house while he in it. Yeah, and he end up in the hospital bleeding from ears, nose, mouth. Sorry, I'll find that article too. Hello, good morning. Yes, sir.
Good morning. It's morning here. It's morning, sir.
Yes, sir.
Also monitor all the great viewers and listeners at this live page. Dominic, as always, say good program as usual.
Thank you.
And all I have to tell people in this country on this local government election, you all go out there, do what you have to do. Remember that this election is to be treated as a general election because this is a prelude to the general election in 2 years' time. So people go out there and give Dr. Rowley the ultimatum to put this country on the world map as he's continuously doing on a day-to-day basis. Because as I rightly said, Dominic, that with the visa restriction in Canada, he would have said it about 2 weeks ago. And look what happened today. Yeah, so will you all, as the electorate, will give up all of this opportunity right now to put back Kamla Pushwati, Sushila Pustabisa back as Prime Minister in this country? But then again, Dominic, she won't be able to walk by then. I just say so, me, I just say so. But good program as usual, and I saw someone on the live saying that you're looking for sponsors to broaden your listenership and things. So that is something we go work on. Yes. We go see who we get to sponsor, and we go try everything. Yeah, that's how we go. We take for no handout. We protect more people. Yeah, that's right. So good program, and I love to understand.
Thank you.
Yeah.
This is belated birthday greetings to Mother Tunapuna, who would have celebrated, I think, her 75th birthday yesterday. So again, birthday greetings, Mother, and I trust that you had an enjoyable one. Also, I saw Marcelin Ned from Tobago was asking if I'm going to start taking voice notes. I believe I can. So if you want to send your voice notes to the WhatsApp number, and we just take a little break in between the call sessions to play some of those. Yeah. So I could probably take maybe about 2 or 3 more calls. Still have a couple of minutes left. So I'm required to be in Port of Spain by about 1:30. So yeah. If you want to add your 2 cents, now is the time, 770-1763. Teresa Frederick says, you need to get back on a radio station. Indeed. Ian Bristol says the government needs to get this info out there, but about the exact figures with these property taxes, not a little bit. Stop saying that they have plenty dodo heads out there. They need exact figures. Yeah, I will do that. I will treat to that. Good morning to His Excellency Nigel O'Connor. He's saying he's late, but better late than never. Yeah, I will do a session on that, right? And I will also, in which I will provide for you the method by which property tax is calculated in other jurisdictions, the likes of Barbados, Guyana, Jamaica, Grenada. So we will debunk it, yes, and we give you the exact figures as to what it is a person will have to pay. I've made the point before, just to reinforce the formula for calculating the property tax, Trinidad residential. It is the annual assessed rental value of your home monthly the annual value. You would minus 10% of that and then find 3% of the figure, right? So if I could do a quick calculation here for you, let's say that in your area, it is assessed that the homes in your area could fetch a monthly rental of $3,000, which is $36,000 for the year, right? You minus 10% of that figure, right? So you just get it here, that is the 3,600. You minus the 3,600 from the 36,000, and you should get what, 32,400, and you find 3% of that. Your property tax for the year is $972, and if we divide that by 12, $81 per month. So you could just, if you think that your house could fetch a rental value of $5,000 a month, if that is what is assessed for your area, 5,000 by 12, 60,000 for the year. You minus 10% from that, 6,000. You left at 54,000, and you will be paying 3% of 54,000 for the year, $1,620. And if you divide that by 12, $135 per month. But we know, if you know you're living in a big shot area and the properties can fetch more money, well then, yeah. But when they do the evaluations, of course, you would be advised as to what is the assessed rental value for your area. And you will be able to do your math. It's not that difficult, but the UNC wants to make it that difficult. So the people who really will be paying the hefty property taxes are those persons who live in the big shot areas, who have properties renting out. When you go on the average real estate website and you're seeing properties in West Moorings, Goodwood Park, Renaissance, renting out for all kind of $4,000 and $5,000 per month because they're trying to attract expatriates, right? And they have locals who pay that $4,000 and $5,000 per month. So you're looking at about what? 28,000 to 35,000 TT dollars per month being rented, so over $4.5 million a year in rental income. They are the ones who will be paying the hefty rates, and they can afford to pay it because these are properties that they are renting out, not properties that they're actually living in. And again, when the UNC says is the PNM wants to make the rich richer, no. By them resisting property tax so stoutly, what they are in fact doing is protecting these persons who have the big house, the mansion with the 5 and 6 bedrooms and so on, with swimming pool and jacuzzi and all these things, from having to pay property tax. But yet still the state is required to spend money to make sure that the roads, and they're always talking about, you see, you have big pothole in Chaguanas and big pothole in Faizabad and Separia, but if it was Bigo Martin and if it was Westmoreland and if it was Maraval, they fixed that long time. Yeah, so it fixed long time. The state taking precious money that could be spent on other things to fix these roads that go into these $1 million properties, and the persons who live in these communities where they put up the gates. So they have no problem coming together as a community to put up big wall and fence to create a gated community. They have no problems coming together every month to put out money to hire security, to maintain the security apparatus at the entrance. So when you drive into these properties, you have to stop and tell the security, I'm going to so-and-so. The security pick up the phone, they call whoever. We have Mr. So-and-so by the gate here to you. Yes, send them in. They lift up the bar, you drive in. Right? When they come back out, they lift up the bar, you drive out. So you can't get inside there unless you know somebody. They have no problems paying every month homeowners association fees of $1,500 and $2,000 and $2,500 a month per household to contribute to the upkeep of their community, to cut the grass and to maintain the security and so on. So in some cases, what they're paying every month in HOA fees is probably more money than what they would be paying in property tax for the year. They have no problems with that. They have no problems paying their property tax, because at the end of the day, they know that it strengthens their title to their property so that they can now demand, I am paying property tax. I don't want to hear nothing about garbage collection services. Fix it. I'm paying for that. I don't want to hear nothing about you can't have money to fix this pothole. I am paying property tax that is going to my corporation. So I don't need to go anymore to call on the minister to fix it. I can go to my corporation and I want to speak to the chairman of the corporation. I want to speak to my councillor. I demanding that the council needs to fix this because every month I pay in only X amount of money into the corporation's coffers. I don't want to hear you all don't have money. I don't want to hear that you have to wait for releases from the ministry because you all are collecting the property taxes of all these citizens and all the households in this corporation, in this area, every month, as the case may be. So you're supposed to have money, and that money is to fix things in this area. So I don't want to hear anything. It strengthens your ability to be able to do that, to make demands on your corporation. Your councillors who now will be working for 4 years can no longer come and tell you, well, the corporation have money and we can't get money for that. No, you all get, in addition to the releases from the consolidated fund, they're getting additional monies now from property tax. So there's no excuse. Nothing. Everything that the corporation is responsible for that requires money is supposed to be working tip-top. But we don't want that. Nah, no property tax. Let the government find the money. I recall reading an article, and I'll bring it for you again, where in 2020, I think it was, Colman Wood did an interview with The Guardian, in which 2020, yeah, between 2016 to 2020, where he announced that the government had spent $202 billion in total. And of that $202 billion, $185 billion went to paying wages and salaries, transfers and subsidies. Yeah, we're telling you, $202 billion spent and $185 billion of that money went to paying wages and salaries, transfers and subsidies. Everybody wants a government work. Wages and salaries, transfers and subsidies is what? The subsidy that they had to be paying on gas. The subsidy that they had to be paying when you want to jump on the ferry to go to Tobago, when you want to jump on the plane to go to Tobago, all of these things, the subsidies that they're paying so that you're paying next to nothing on your WASA bill. The subsidies that they're paying for tea and tech to keep your rates low, all of these different things. That money that the government is earning has to be going to that. Transfers, public assistance, old age pension, disability grant, food card, all of these things is what the money is going into. So the government has precious little money left to engage in infrastructure projects, to build new hospitals, to build new police station and fire station, and to have money to pave road and upkeep the road and so on. Minus 185 billion from 202. You're left with 17 billion to build hospital, build school, build road, build health center, pave road, all of these different things over 4 years. But we don't want to talk about that. Because when it is that the government has to pay recurrent expenditure salaries every month, and then every 3 years, public servants expect to get an increase and back pay. All of these things have to be factored in. But when a couple of years ago, the Minister of Finance announced the government is going to take a loan of $1 billion to pave roads throughout the country, the UNC supporters jump up and say they only taking asset a loan and incurring debt, increasing the debt to GDP ratio, right? That was the complaint. Now they're complaining about road now, but when the government came up with a strategy, we will borrow $1 billion to pave the roads, or they have a problem with the government taking a loan to pave the road. So don't take no loan. All right, we'll take the money from the Heritage and Stabilization Fund. While you only read in the Heritage and Stabilization Fund, when we were in office, we never took any money from the Heritage and Stabilization Fund. You didn't take any money because the law prevented you from doing so. But if it is you could have, you would have. Then the same way you rape NGC bank account 16 billion, and the same way you rape the Exchequer account, take it from 10 billion and overdraft to 33 billion, right? It's the same way they would have raided the Heritage and Stabilization Fund too. But thank God, Mr. Manning had this sense and he knew what the UNC was about, that if they ever got into office, that if there was one last bastion of savings for this country that needed to be protected, it was the Heritage and Stabilization Fund. And he used the majority that his government had at the time to put legislation in place to protect the Heritage and Stabilization Fund from that band of marauders. And that was the only thing that they couldn't touch, that they couldn't thief from. But everything else, imagine the Green Fund and the Green Fund levy. They mortgaged that. They put it up as collateral to borrow money so that when this government came in, they couldn't even touch that. Sorry, but the People's Partnership mortgaged that. That is being held as collateral for loans that they took. Never mind the fact that they had the highest energy revenues in this country's history, according to Kamla Prasad-Bissessar. But you all put up the Green Fund as collateral to take loan and no access to it. So the things that the Green Fund was intended for, to provide grants and so on to deal with environmental issues, couldn't be dealt with because that fund was being held ransom as collateral for loans that they took. The supporters ain't going to talk about that. That is why when Kamla Prasad-Bissessar, in response to Dr. Rowley's session that he had, Mind Your Business, where he was talking about what the government met back in 2019, I think it was, what the government met when they came in and how they had to manage and navigate with the little money that they had. She jumped out herself to say, well, they lie when they say that it only had enough money for 3 days left in the country's coffers because it had money in the country's arm. And her excuse was, you had money in the Heritage and Stabilization Fund and you had the country's foreign reserves. Those are the only two sources of income, of money, that Kamla could identify to tell you that the government had access to money, when she knows that the Heritage and Stabilization Fund could not be touched because the law was elucidly clear as to the circumstances under which you could touch that. So they needed to go to Parliament, right? And to amend the legislation in order to be able to access that money. She knows that. And she's telling you the government could have used the country's foreign reserves to get money to run the country. But today they're singing a song that this government drained the country's foreign reserves and so on. Your government is using your foreign reserves to stabilize the exchange rate so that you wouldn't have to be paying 8 and 9 and 10 TT for $1. Your government is fully aware of the impact that that would have on inflation because everything in this country is imported because we just love everything foreign. So that when they draw down on the country's foreign reserves to be able to provide supply to the banks, the commercial banks and so on, it is something that is called a dirty or managed float. The real exchange rate in this country should really be in the region of about 9 or 10 TT to $1. But the government is pumping foreign reserves, taking the forex and pumping it to increase the supply in the banking system to keep that exchange rate at about 679, 680. But the UNC in their manifesto of 2020 says that when they come and put them back, and they will remove that. They don't support the managed or dirty float, that they will allow market forces to determine the exchange rate. So put them back in 2025, and when it is that you see the exchange rate goes from 680, 679, 680 to $10, don't complain. All of you all who complaining about 7% online tax, if it is you could afford to be buying things online, then you have no business complaining about your car buy food. Because if you have credit card and you shopping online and bringing things into the country, then you're supposed to have money to buy food. Your priorities mixed up. But here it is that UNC said you put us back into office and we will allow the exchange rate to slide. So you know what will happen? All of a sudden, you're going to have a flood of US in the banks because all who hoard in the US now, when it go up, so I could run to the bar, I paid $680 or $675 for this US. But when the rate goes up to 10, I will take all this US and run to the bank now and sell it and make a huge profit. That's what they're waiting on. And UNC is saying it's in their manifesto in black and white that is what they're going to do. But we don't take time to read. We're not interested in reading to find out what it is they offer. We'll probably take this last call. Hello, good afternoon. Hello? Hello? 691.
Dominic?
Yes, sir.
Hello?
Yes, sir, go ahead.
Dominic, so if they remove that, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I want US about $10.
Mm-hmm.
What happened to the US goods and service? It will go up?
Correct.
And then the country will be in a crisis because people can't afford to buy food items.
Correct.
All right. So, Dominic, I have one more question before you go.
Mm-hmm.
If, God forbid, you win, right?
Yes.
You think Maduro will popular when she say, why go is the president? So that girl deal we get with the manatee and the dragon field. That will be dead if she win.
Well,
could you answer that question? Yes. Okay.
Well, after all they bad talk Delcy and bad talk Maduro and all kind of thing, as far as she said, they recognize Guaido. And I'm certain Mr. Maduro is fully aware of that. Yeah, so folks, yes, it is past 12 o'clock, so I must leave. But again, thank you all for being a wonderful audience this morning. I went a little over what I had planned to. Patricia McKenzie says because they have buckets of US buried in the backyard. I wouldn't know that. So we will continue the discussion on hopefully Sunday. I also have something to do on Sunday, so I had to work out the timing if it is I have to come on earlier or later. Might be a little later on in the afternoon on Sunday. Probably around 1 o'clock instead of 11. Well, I'll let you all know for sure. Yeah, so enjoy the rest of your holiday. If you're going and plant, do so. I don't know what the weather is like outside. I haven't checked for the morning, but usually on Corpus Christi you see some rain. Yeah, so enjoy the weather. Enjoy the rest of your afternoon, and don't let these people stress you out. All right, and we will chat again on Sunday morning or afternoon, God's willing. So take care.